Hey, I think Luke Skywalker is going to be the bad guy in the new Star Wars movie. To find out why I think that, stay tuned.
This is Automated Thought.
So, okay, I'm not the first one to think this. Lots of other people have pointed out that in the posters for The Last Jedi, they put Luke's face where the villain normally goes. The idea of Luke Skywalker turning to the dark side is not new. Mark Hamill was talking about it in interviews like years and years ago. It's not a new idea, but how would it happen, and why would it happen? That's what I want to look at in this extremely nerdy video.
Misdirection.
When I watch the latest preview for The Last Jedi, I see a lot of misdirection, I think. They go out of their way to show Luke as scared and vulnerable, saying that he's afraid of Rey's power. They make it look like Kylo Ren knocked over a building on him. At the same time, they make Kylo Ren look extremely evil. They make it look like he's going to kill his mom. I think the opposite is going to happen. He's going to see Leia in order to talk to her, not to kill her. Basically, they're doing everything they can to make you think that Snoke and Kylo Ren are the real villains, but Luke is going to be the real villain. I'm pretty sure of it at this point, like 99%.
I refuse to believe that Snoke is on the level.
I refuse to believe that this guy is for real. He has no personal connection to Rey. The thing that elevated Star Wars above the other sci-fi movies of the time was the relationship between Luke and Darth Vader. That family connection was way more interesting than all the starships and Death Stars. Without that personal connection between the hero and the villain, you don't have nothing. You got no drama. And even if they did eventually reveal that Snoke created Rey by cloning her or something, that still wouldn't really work. He's such a freakish, alien-looking character, you can't really have the personal interplay between them. You need two humans relating to each other, like Daisy Ridley and Mark Hamill. Having your vital villain be a CGI beastie, it's just not good enough. Disney keeps dropping hints about Snoke, trying to make us interested in him. They keep saying things like,
"Oh, Snoke, he's very ancient. He's totally a major villain that will play into everything. He's very mysterious. Look at the Snoke."
I don't buy it. In The Force Awakens, he's just a big stupid hologram. And then in The Last Jedi, he's in this hellish red throne room, and he's wearing an ostentatious gold robe. This all screams of theater. This all screams puppet on the throne to me. Plus, just look at his name, Snoke. It's a silly name. It doesn't have the gravitas of a real villain name. It sounds like smoke, smokescreen, something that obfuscates. Also, a Snoke is a type of herring. A red herring, possibly? Also, Snoke is short for sneaky old Luke, because Luke is the real villain. I'll bet almost anything that Snoke is Luke's servant. Sure, he might be ancient. He might be some kind of ancient hermit. Maybe Snoke was some old dark side hermit who lives in a barren wasteland, kind of like Yoda. Just a messed up old dark side creature, and maybe we'll see a flashback where Luke goes and finds him and says, "Hey, Snoke, you're working for me now." And Snoke says,
"Do not trifle with me, boy. I am ancient and powerful."
And then Luke totally pwns him, and Snoke has to bow to him and call him master. But why would Luke do this? Why would Luke recruit a dark side beastie to be his number 2 man? Well, for one thing, it could be his way of taking over the First Order. If the Empire is constantly hunting you, what better way to distract them than to put your servant in charge so that he could throw them off your track, get them to do what you want? Beyond that, maybe Luke used him to test his students. Luke was training this new generation of Jedi, including Ben Solo. Maybe he felt that his students were kind of privileged and spoiled, and they didn't have to face real hardship like Luke did. Maybe he had Snoke try to tempt them or threaten them to the dark side, and to Luke's amazement, they began to fall. Luke probably lost his temper. He's probably the one that brought that building down on top of everyone. In the first Star Wars movie, we spend the whole film basically believing a lie, that Darth Vader was the one who killed Luke Skywalker's father. In The Force Awakens, we're meant to believe the lie that Kylo Ren just lost his shit one day, killed everyone, and left. Because, I don't know, he was butthurt for some reason. That's going to be a lie. Kylo Ren did not destroy Luke's school of Jedi students. Luke did, because Luke still has a lot of anger. A lot of the super nerds say that Snoke has to be the real villain because there's these Star Wars novels, and in them it says that Emperor Palpatine, the whole time he was on the throne, he was obsessed with this dark force that he sensed emanating from the unknown regions of the galaxy. So the super nerds say, hey, that's got to be Snoke, right? Snoke has to be the ancient dark force that came in and moved in after the Emperor fell? Probably not. If the makers of these new movies are going to use the dark force from the unknown regions, they're probably going to build it up a lot more. That'll be like their Thanos, this far-off threat that gradually gets clearer and clearer, and it'll probably be in the next trilogy, not this one. The one thing I really don't understand, though, is how Snoke even became the head of the First Order in the first place. Whether he's Luke's servant or whether he's his own villain, why did the remnants of the Empire agree to follow him? Presumably, after the death of the Emperor, they would rally around a military leader, someone known to them like Grand Admiral Thrawn. Remember, the leaders of the Empire had no idea that Palpatine was a Sith, and in general, they hated and feared the Jedi. They didn't like Vader because he was a former Jedi. So when Snoke snithered out of the darkness, what made them say, hey, he's our guy?
I can use the Force. Make me your leader.
Yeah, we hate people who use the Force. Go away, Snoke.
No, seriously, I'd be a great leader. Look how twisted and evil I am.
So yeah, that's a mystery. That part I don't know.
But why would Luke turn to the dark side, man?
So yeah, when people say that Luke is the bad guy and he's turned to the dark side, that doesn't mean that he's a Sith. That doesn't mean that he wants to be the new Palpatine and rule the galaxy from a big throne. It just means that he's the antagonist. And the one thing we know for absolute certain from the trailer is that Luke is becoming some sort of gray Jedi. He's rejected the binary of the light and the dark, and he thinks that he can use both to his advantage. That's why he shows up in the posters for the dark side characters and the posters for the light side characters.
Gray Jedi. Non-binary.
But what does Luke want? I mean, he doesn't want to rule like his father or the Emperor. Luke wants what he's always wanted, to bring the Force back to the galaxy. Somehow he failed with his first students, and in the 10 years that he's been away hiding on that little island planet and taking control of the First Order, I think he found a better way to do it. Ask yourself this: what is Luke Skywalker's most dominant personality trait besides his wide-eyed farm boy heroism? He's impatient. Luke has always been impatient. He's impatient to leave his uncle's farm. He's impatient to leave Yoda and go face Vader. Luke is always rushing ahead. Rebuilding the new Jedi Order, one Force user at a time, it's going too slowly for him. It would take generations. Maybe Luke discovered something. Maybe Luke realized that if you commit an act of supreme evil, like blowing up the Republic and killing billions of people, maybe the universe, the Force, pushes back. Maybe it activates the midichlorians and gets them to replicate out of control. And this causes Force abilities to manifest in young people all over the galaxy. That there's this constant pull between the light and the dark. And that by bringing some darkness to the universe, by blowing up the Republic, Luke can actually do this for the greater good. And that this is going to spark a whole new generation of Jedi. That if you hurt the galaxy, then the galaxy, it heals and pushes back. You know who also got hurt in The Force Awakens? Finn. Remember he got his back slashed open and he fell into a coma? I'll bet you anything that when Finn wakes up from his coma, he's gonna start feeling the Force and gaining some Force abilities. Just like Rey did, really. In The Force Awakens, everyone was complaining that Rey seemed to be too good with the Force, that she was too strong. Most of the Force abilities she displayed, that happened after the Republic was blown up. So she was feeling the new Force. The Force was awakening, not just in her, but all over. See, the makers of these movies, they're in kind of the same spot as the makers of The Legend of Korra. Have you ever seen Legend of Korra? It's pretty much the best cartoon ever made, seriously. But anyway, Aang was the last airbender. So in The Legend of Korra, the only airbenders that were around were Aang's son, Tenzin, and his family. Does that mean that the only way to get new airbenders would be for Tenzin to sleep with tons of women and then have all his kids kind of inbreed with each other? A bunch of airbenders having sex with their cousins? No, that'd be gross. People wouldn't like that. The way they got around this problem was by saying that, the spirit gate between the worlds is open, so now people are manifesting airbender qualities. And that's how you get new airbenders. I think Disney wants to do that with the Jedi. Because never mind the expanded universe where there's still like lots of little Jedi hidden somewhere. In the context of these movies, Luke is pretty much the last one. And he needs more. Luke wants more Jedi, and Disney wants more Jedi. They want a whole new generation of Jedi to go off and be in other movies. Young characters that the kids can relate to. So that's going to be Luke's mission in life. Luke is going to do horrible things. He's going to end the trilogy by dying. But at the end, he will have achieved his life's purpose. A new generation of Jedi. And not only just a new generation, but one that's not beholden to the old ways of the Sith and the Jedi. He says he knows only one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end. That doesn't mean that he doesn't want people using the Force. He just doesn't want them to be taught the old restrictive ways of the past. As we saw in the prequel movies, the old Jedi, they were kind of boring. They were monks. They lived strict lives of meditation and discipline. The old Jedi were all, hey, go meditate, eat your vegetables, don't look at that cute girl, you're not allowed to like cute girls. See, that has to end. That's lame. Kids today don't want any part of the old Jedi Order. They want a new Jedi Order. They want characters that don't live in a monastery. Characters that have some flash and verve to them. Characters that are allowed to flirt with the dark side and do things that are, impulsive and sexy and fun. I'm pretty sure that at the end of this new trilogy, we'll have waved goodbye to the old Star Wars, and we'll have the new Star Wars. It'll no longer be this completely black and white thing, where the bad guys are these guys called the Sith, who are 100% evil, complete assholes that nobody likes and have no real relationships, and then the boring Jedi, who eat their vegetables, and aren't allowed to look at girls. That's the old Star Wars. It's in the past. Bring on something new. You know what the kids would like? Some kind of Star Wars universe where there's all different types of Force users, like 8 different Jedi orders. Like the houses of Hogwarts. Maybe there could be a new Jedi Order that's kind of similar to the old ones, and maybe an evil one that's kind of more like the Sith. But then in between you could have all these different types of personalities, like Hufflepuff and Gryffindor. That's what the kids would like, You don't think Disney's taking that into account?
Disney wants money.
If Snoke really was the bad guy in these movies, and if his entire goal was to just basically do the same thing as the Emperor, build a giant Starkiller base and rule the galaxy, that's something we've already seen before. If Disney is smart, then they're going to wipe the slate clean. At the end of this trilogy, the First Order will be destroyed, and the Republic will rule over everything. And it won't be totally good. The new Republic that forms after the war with the First Order, they might be, powerful, slightly oppressive, kind of a stern police presence, kind of a mean cop. And you could use that as the springboard for all the other stories that they want to tell. I mean, just think about it. So long as you're living in a galaxy where the only thing going on is a huge war between the Empire and the Rebels, then that's the only story you can tell. Everything connects to that. But if you wipe the slate clean and have a new Republic, then you could go tell all sorts of stories. You could have movies where characters dig up some weird ancient relics that summon some ancient evil Force ghosts and get into all this weird shit from like 10,000 years ago. You could have a movie where the bad guy is like an evil droid that takes control of all the other droids and they start turning people into droids. Whatever. You could have movies where there's like a giant Jedi college for new Jedi and they compete and learn stuff. Like Hogwarts. My point is, it can't just be about the First Order versus the Resistance. That can only go on for so long. When Luke breaks the dichotomy and opens up all these new possibilities, that's going to be the benefit. New stories. The main reason why I think Luke has to be the bad guy in these new movies?
They need a twist.
They're trying to follow up one of the greatest twists of all time. Luke, I am your father. I've always been jealous of the people who got to see The Empire Strikes Back in the theater and experience that twist firsthand. Because except for a few literary professors, no one saw it coming at the time. The people in the theater gasped and said, "Holy crap! Darth Vader's Luke's father! I can't frickin' believe it! That's amazing!" Don't you think J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson want to have a twist that's just as big as that? What else could they use except for Luke turns to the dark side? And the super nerds out there, they think that the twist is going to be something else. That Snoke is really Darth Plagueis, or some character from the expanded universe, or a clone of the Emperor, or even a Mace Windu twisted by Palpatine's Force lightning. No, that will never happen. You know why? Because that's a twist that only the nerds would understand. I mean, just imagine, here in a week or two, when all these families are going to see the Last Jedi over Christmas break, and at the very end, Snoke says,
I will finally reveal my secret. I have many names, but before this I was known as Darth Plagueis.
Everyone in the family would say, "Huh? Who? What does that mean?" The only person who would get it would be the 32-year-old nerd. And he would say,
Oh, come on, Dad. Don't you remember in Revenge of the Sith when Palpatine and Anakin, they were like at the opera and Palpatine was telling Anakin about Darth Plagueis the Wise, who was his master, but he killed him, and then like all this other stuff, like maybe he like used the midichlorians to create Anakin?
and his father and everyone else in the family would just say, "Huh? What? No, I don't remember that. Fuck you, you're a nerd." The twist has to be something that is understandable by everyone, not just the nerds. More importantly, it has to be understandable by Rey. I mean, what would Rey think if she goes before Snoke and Snoke reveals that he's actually Darth Plagueis? Rey would say, "Huh? Who? I don't care. Rey don't give a shit about no Darth Plagueis. What the hell are you talking about?" There's no relationship there. There's no drama. The drama will come from Rey learning a lot under Luke's tutelage and then finding out that he has a secret agenda that he's been keeping from her. She's young and hopeful. Luke is old and cynical and is willing to embrace the dark to get what he wants. All the drama and tension will follow from that. So hey, that brings me to another point. Who is Rey anyway? Is she Luke Skywalker's daughter? Maybe, but probably not. She's way more likely to be Obi-Wan Kenobi's granddaughter or something, and we'll learn about her parentage in the Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off movie. I'm guessing that Luke found out about her and adopted her. The granddaughter of his old mentor, obviously he'd want to look after her. But when he began to cook up his crazy scheme to embrace the dark side in order to create new Jedi, he wanted to keep her out of it. She was too young and innocent. He probably placed a telepathic command in her head that made her want to stay on Jakku and wait for her family. He didn't want her anywhere near the Republic when it got all blowed up. Just go back and look at the end of The Force Awakens. That look on Luke's face when Rey finds him, that look just says, "What the hell? I erased all your memories of me and I put that command in your head to make you want to stay on that crappy planet, and then I fled to the farthest reaches of the galaxy where no one could ever find me. And now here you are. Clearly this is the will of the Force, but damn, the Force be fucking with me." That's what that look says. Rey finding Luke was an act of great cosmic irony that will change everything because he tried to prevent it at all costs. Anyway, that's my theory. In about a week and a half, we'll find out if I'm right or if I'm just full of shit. Before I go, I want to run this theory by the true master of Star Wars. You all know him. You all love him. Let's ask Harry Plinkett what he thinks. Mr. Plinkett, what do you think of my Luke theory?
Oh my god! You stupid online nerds with all your dumb theories. Stop overthinking everything. None of that shit's gonna happen. Luke's a good guy. Deal with it. He's gonna sacrifice himself to save Rey from Snoke. Dead hookers. That's all there is to it. Jesus fucking Christ. You sound like the kind of asshole who has a bunch of Willow fanfiction on your hard drive, am I right? Dead hookers.
I can tell you're being facetious, Mr. Plinkett, but as a matter of fact, I do. It mostly deals with what happens to Mad Mardigan and Sorsha after the fall of Bev Morda, But it also goes into what happens to the Nelwyn after Willow becomes the first of a long line of High Aldwins, and I make some really interesting connections between Sherlindria and Finn Rizal. You see, I think that...
Ah, fuck you, nerd!